Hey beauties, how are you doing? I am doing so good. I am just loving being alive right now. It just seems like in the last few weeks, things have progressively gotten better. It's been a roller coaster at times, but overall it has been better. And just the last few days, I have been so touched by so many things going on in my life, and just the pure sheer love of complete strangers sometimes, and then of course the love of Jeremy. And I have been fully supported by Jeremy to do these vlogs. I even spoke with my ex-husband, and he said as long as I did not put his name in it or pictures, that I could do this. I just want to stress that I am not going against anybody's wishes. I'm sure my ex would prefer that I don't tell the story at all, but he also knows that my mental health is pretty important, and I need to do this for myself and for those that I love out there that are suffering and going through very similar things. Before you can tell anyone an end of the story, it has to be a beginning. And my beginning is a little complicated, actually. This story is about my soon-to-be ex-husband. Okay, that getting said, let's go back in time till I was 26 years old. I had lost a great deal of weight. I had lost about 100 pounds, under 200 pounds. And I was a good probably 500-ish at that time. But I had a really big belly, and I was still just not very comfortable in my body physically. I'm not talking about looks or anything like that. I'm just talking physically. But I was the best health I had been in years, like since I was 18. And I went to visit a friend, a lady friend, and I ended up meeting the man that I was desperately head over heels infatuation with. It was so much lust there that I can't even put it into words sometimes. He was everything I wanted. He was an artist. He was tall. He had long hair. He was just sweet and kind and didn't make demands of me, and he was totally not mine for the taking. And we ended up, I lost my virginity to him, and this would set off a series of events that would lead me to meeting my soon-to-be ex-husband. So I went home to Louisiana in total love and infatuation, and in this reality that was not reality. I thought that this guy was going to get his life together and come get me, and we were gonna live in our little cottage and paint and make love and just love life. But he did not want love. That was not his idea. His idea was something that I would never be able to provide for him. I had nothing that would help him in his life except for love, and that's just not what he wanted. But it took me a while to understand that, and he broke my heart. And when I discovered that he was breaking my heart, I met the woman that he broke my heart with, and me and her become really, really good friends. Now, why am I telling you all this? Okay, well, because just hold on. It gets a little weirder. So, I I, in the meantime, went through a lot of depression. I gained back up to 700 pounds within a 2-year time span. Now, in my memory, all of this seems like it just happened over the course of a few days, but it didn't. A lot of that time, I was so knocked out and asleep and just not part of the world because I was so depressed. I did not function as a human. I did not leave my bed very much. I did not leave my house very much. I talked to men on the internet. I talked to my friends on the internet, and that was about all I did. I did blog back in there because I was having life issues with my grandpa, and I felt it was very comforting to blog. So I had a really very active blog back then. It was like through like Yahoo, one of the things that Yahoo offered back then. And it was kind of becoming a thing. People were reading it and liking it, and I loved doing it. And I was getting more and more friends, more and more attention, and I met a few people through that time period. I met a guy that lived close. I thought I was gonna like be his girlfriend. That didn't work out either because he wanted a lot more from me than I was willing to provide. And yeah, so I did some really crazy things and talked to people I really should not have been talking to. I had a few stalkers. I mean, it was crazy. But so here I am, 700 pounds, not really caring if I lived or died again. Super depressed. Kept getting my heart broken. And then I get a message on MySpace, because by this time MySpace was a thing, and that was where I was doing my blogging at. Currently was on MySpace. I get a message on MySpace saying, hey, I'm a friend of blank, and I just looked at your pictures. I think you're awesome. I was reading your blog. I love what you have to say. And I really just, want to know, how do I get the attention of a girl like you? And, I know we're not the same age and everything, but I thought maybe we could be friends and you could help me out getting to know other girls. Roll my eyes in the back of my head was the understatement, because if you're a big girl on the internet and an active presence, you get this kind of crap all the time. But this was somebody I knew's friend. So the somebody I knew was the girl I met through the guy that broke my heart. So I message her and I'm like, hey girl, how you doing? What's up? I'm like, this kid just messaged me. I was like, is he like a weirdo, or should I talk to him? What do you think? And she's like, oh, he is a really sweet kid. I've known him since he was like 13. She's like, and we're just really good friends. We play games. I talk to him, about his family and stuff, because she's even older than I am. I was like, oh, okay, so he really just needs friends, right? And she's like, yeah, he really does. And I was like, okay, I'll be his friend. Well, we started speaking, and I gave him my phone number, and I realized he was hitting on me quite often. And so he was 17. I had no interest in him whatsoever. He was not my type in any way. So I didn't have like this big plan with him or anything. So he started hitting on me, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna scare him off and make him go away. So I started like heavy flirting with him, like heavy flirting, and saying things that I thought would provoke him to go. But that did not provoke him to go. So fast forward, I finally have to say, okay, look, you're a kid. I can't talk to you. like, you're flirting with me? This is a crime. I was like, so when you get to be 18, you know, we can be friends when you're 18. So life happens. We, you know, he messages me occasionally. We had become really good friends. He helped me with my schoolwork because I had started going to school online, and he was helping me with my math. And I fell and I went in the hospital, and I was so scared, and I didn't know, even though it was my leg, it was like blood clots, and I was so scared. I had a really bad cold and a chest infection. I was miserable, and I couldn't get the care I needed because I was like 700 pounds, and the hospital like was just not adapt for me. So my ex, my then friend, he, you know, would call me and check on me, and you know, he turned 18 and he was like, I'm 18 now, please talk to me, I really like you. And our friendship grew. We spoke for hours on the phone every day. Like, we would go to sleep at night talking to each other, and he would sing me songs that I liked, and I loved to hear him sing. I'm gonna get a little emotional. Yeah, so he would sing to me, and he'd help me with my schoolwork, and he just made me the center of his life. He would send me packages of like just the sweetest things. He sent me a Hillary Clinton book for one of my first gifts from him. Our first Valentine's, he sent me a Build-A-Bear that said I love New York all over it, and just like this little gangster outfit. It was so cute. And we later bought a tux for him because my second Valentine's, he sent me a bride bear from Build-A-Bear. So like for our wedding, we even used those bears. Well, anyway, I progressed. So we courted. He actively sent me gifts and called me and talked to me, and he started visiting. We met. It was a very, very big surprise how we met. I was going with some of my friends to meet this lady that me and him met through, and her boyfriend at the time. And he traveled to her, a 24-hour train ride, and then we all met in Missouri. And I guess our first fight happened because I was like, how dare you not tell me, blah, blah, blah. I thought, you know, oh, I don't know what I thought. It was a big mess. It was a really big mess. But at the end, it all worked out, and we spent 3 days together, and I fell in love with him. He told my best friend, he's like, I can't marry her now, but you have to take care of her until I can. And she's gonna be my wife one day. So yeah, he kind of stole my heart in that moment. And after that, he come to visit me twice a year. He would come for 1 to 2 weeks in January, and then 1 to 2 weeks in the summer. He was in New York, I was in Louisiana. And we would stay wrapped up in each other the entire time that we were together. And it was kind of amazing. The first time he come to Louisiana, I was sick. I was like so sick. I had bronchitis. I had a horrible fever. It was like almost pneumonia. He had to do things for me that really nobody should have to do for anybody. And so one of the nights, like mid week, he was helping me take a shower. We were taking a shower together, and he puts his arms around me, and I'm like just with my head on his shoulder, and he says, you're my China doll, and I want to protect you forever. young love, right? He is definitely a talker. He knows what to say, how to say it. He's very smooth that way sometimes. Other times he's a complete mess, but he did know what to say to me, and we just made our life plan. I continued with school. I started losing weight, not because he wanted me to, because he loved my body the way I was, but because we wanted to have a life together in New York, and we wanted to be able to do things together, and we wanted to have children eventually. So he had to tell his family, because it had gotten to the point where we knew we wanted to be together, and he wanted to come get me and move me to New York, and those plans were going forward. And he knew telling his parents was not going to go over well. So it come to that time where he needed to tell his family that he was in love with not only an older woman, but a white Christian woman that was fat. And frankly, the fat part was the biggest problem. But he did tell them, and he did get met with a lot of protest, but it didn't scare him off. So we made arrangements, and it took about a year process because he had to get an apartment and get established where he was going to school out on Long Island, and had to transfer from his college he was currently at out to Long Island. He had, to get arrangements for a vehicle and a lot of things like that. So he did all of that. His parents was helping him get an apartment. He didn't tell them that I was going to move there. I feel bad for that now, knowing his parents, because I really did fall in love with them. But, so I moved to New York. He and his best friend come got me. Now looking back, that trip had a lot of telltale signs in it that I was just too in love to see. So he was 20 by this time, and we took the move trip as a vacation as well. We went to the Florida Keys and then drove up the coastline, basically stopped at Myrtle Beach and a few other places, and it was more or less horrible because we fought so much. I was sad for leaving my dog and my friend and my mom, and I was expecting him to be Prince Charming that he was when he come to visit me, and he wasn't. And I was like, oh my God, what did I do? What did I get myself into? And two, I think we fought a lot at the beginning because I had this really big stack of expectations that I thought it was supposed to be the way it was. And life, you can't make expectations to a point where it has to be that way, because it just turns out really bad to do that. Life could be so sweet if you don't have a huge list of expectations. I'm even learning that now more and more, and it's just a wonderful feeling when you don't have a list of expectations. But to get back on track, so we lived in Long Island, and he went to school, and we met friends, and we had a beautiful group of friends. His family would not see me. They would not even, talk about me existing, except to say, don't bring her. And then 2 years in, I believe, I met his sister and his brother and their spouses and their children, and I fell in love, literal love, with the kids. I fell in love with his family. I loved his brother his brother cracks me up. Like, I could argue with his brother all day long and never be angry because he just has this way about him that is just hilarious if you know him. His sister, like, everything about his sister was something I respected. She was a family person, 100%. She come across as this strong woman that was, you know, business and street savvy, but once I got to know her, I saw that she was this soft mush on the inside, and I loved her for it even more. And then my spouses, I become best friends with my sister-in-law, who was married to my husband's brother. Me and her were best friends, and she's still my best friend to this day. I could not have survived the last 7 years without her. She literally was everything. She was a big part of my life. And the kids, again, I fell in love with being an aunt. Even before we got married, it was just like I was in love with the kids. I'm going to be an emotional mess if I keep talking about this. So anyway, 2 years in to New York, I met all of them. And then after I met his siblings, it was about a year, and we were starting to plan our wedding and everything with the idea that they wouldn't come. But then a very big tragedy happened, and my husband lost his cousin. And that is when I met his family, because he said, Evie, I can't do this without you. I need you there with me. And so I met his family at a wake, and that was interesting. I will say, for the most part, his parents always treated me with respect and dignity. It wasn't 100%, but most of the time. And his mom is somebody I grew to love deeply, and I know she does not feel the same way about me. I know that she never would feel the same way about me, but I missed my mom a lot, being so far away from her, and having somebody there that would hug me when I come in the door and, you know, just talk to me and see how I was doing. It really meant a lot to me, and I really care for her. I really care to her to this day. And she is another reason it was very hard for me to leave, because I knew once I left that she would not have contact with me and she would hate me, and it was really, really hard for me. But so after that, we planned our wedding in the idea that his parents would come, and then his parents went out of country about 2 weeks before our wedding. So they didn't come, but we had a beautiful fairy tale wedding. There are some sad points that I will tell in the second part that happened that day, but for the most part, our wedding was beautiful. It was magical. It was expensive. And it was something that I could have never dreamed that I, as a little country girl, would have a big, fancy New York wedding. It is still, to this day, was probably one of the best days of my life. I felt beautiful. I felt loved. It was a beautiful, blessed day. And yeah, that is to the point where I say that is our love story, because I honestly feel like the day we got married, my love story ended. So I did my best, and this is going to be really too long, and I don't want to make it any worse than it is to listen to. If anybody listens to these, I am going to be like, high five for sitting through it, because I know it's not the best thing to listen to. But I know a lot of people were very curious about my story, very curious about my love story, and yeah. So to end this, I want to give you lovely ladies out there looking for love a little bit of things to watch out for. So, one, if you think someone is stalking you, that is not someone to ever get in a relationship with. My husband stalked me, basically. He broke into my email, he broke into my photo bucket, and yeah, he stalked me. And it was pretty darn scary at that moment, but I didn't realize it. I thought it was sweet. Like, if someone is stalking you, you do not want to marry them, okay? Because that is a sign of aggression, and that is a sign of control, and that is not something that you want in your life. Also, if there is something that a guy is doing or a girl is doing that you do not like, or you do not believe in, or you do not appreciate, don't think that love or lust can change that. Because if they do it while you're in love and lust and before you're living together, they're going to do it 10 times more when you're living together. It's just the facts. I cannot say enough. Pay attention to the people that you're dating and their actions, because you're going to have to see that magnified times 100 when you're living together. Also, if a spouse cannot put you before their family, they cannot put you before their job, their work, their school, it is not a situation that, if you need 100% of attention, if you need to know that you're loved, it's not a good relationship starter, and it's not a good relationship finisher. You need to know when you're dating, you need to know what you can and can't accept. And you need to stick with that, because I had a list, but I threw it out the window. And if I would have kept my list and lived by my list, maybe I would not be getting divorced right now. So I just want to give you that advice to end this. And as always, be your own beautiful.